Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Top 5 Best and Worst Star Trek Plot Twists. This is a patron requested video requested by patron Kyrie091. In this video I will count down my top 10 least favorite and my top 10 favorite plot twists in Star Trek. So it was kind of hard coming up with this list. I'm almost certain I forgot about some episodes, and someone's gonna mention something in the comments, and I'll be like, oh fuck yeah, that should have been on my list. And it was also hard narrowing it down to just 5 episodes because I thought of a lot of good contenders, but I wanted to keep this video relatively short, and 5 was what Kyrie091 asked for, so yeah. Keep it at 5. 5 worst, 5 best plot twists. That is, big shocking reveals or shocking moments or, the twist. What a twist. You know what I mean. Anyway, so we'll start with my top 5 least favorite plot twists in Star Trek. And so we'll start with my number 5, which is Sela is revealed from Redemption. So, yeah, I like Redemption. It's a good 2-parter, but I've been on the record saying that the whole Sela thing, Tasha Yar has a daughter, was a ridiculous twist. It's not that interesting, and more to the point, is really not necessary. It's just an excuse to bring Denise Crosby back, and it kind of undermines yesterday's Enterprise in a way, because this was Tasha Yar having the death that she deserved, but then in this episode we learned that she didn't actually die, that she was held captive, repeatedly raped, and gave birth to a daughter, and then that daughter turned on her and had her executed. How's that that makes that ending worse? It's kind of evil, not better. So yeah, it was just unnecessary, and she barely appears in the show after this, so it was just a complete and utter waste of time, so not a good twist. So next we'll get into number 4. It was Jack the Ripper all along from Wolf in the Fold. Yeah, so I've been on record saying Wolf in the Fold is one of the worst episodes of the original series, and this twist is one of the worst twists. It was already a dumb episode, to be fair, because it was a falsely accused BS where we knew Scotty wasn't guilty, and yeah, there was a bit of misogyny at the start of the episode, but then when they revealed the actual killer was this alien being who was Jack the Ripper before, but travels from planet to planet, inhabiting bodies and killing women. So dumb. It was so dumb. It's so ridiculous. Jack the Ripper was just a rich person who paid off nobles to not get arrested. That's all there is to it. But even if that wasn't the case, he definitely was an alien monster going around killing people. I hate all this stupid Jack the Ripper shit where they try to turn it into a fantasy or making a monster or an alien or some bullshit. And this was way over the top too, the way he took over the ship and had this high pitch, I'm gonna kill you all. It was so cheesy. So yeah, that one was particularly terrible. So next we'll move to my number 3. Alternate timeline Nazis with aliens from 0 Hour. Now, 0 Hour I love, as I did put it in, I think it was in my top 10 favorite episodes of Enterprise, but it does have this little cliffhanger at the end, this little twist, because we think Captain Archer has died, and we find that he's alive, but we see him with some Nazis on Earth, and supposedly during the 1940s, but then there's an alien there, and it's like what? Like, why even do that? Like, they should have just ended the season with the Xindi, because that's what the whole season was about. This is a huge distraction, and we find out in the next episode that it's, an alternate past where the Nazis were winning World War II because they had help from aliens. It was totally unnecessary, totally dumb. And Star Trek, particularly Brannon Braga, seems obsessed with doing Nazi episodes when it really wasn't called for. And thank God, though, that Manny Coto took over as showrunner, because apparently Brannon Braga and Rick Berman wanted it to take the whole season. They wanted the entire season 4 to be about this alternate past with the Nazis, and thank God Manny Coto said, no, that's a dumb idea. We're not doing that. But yeah, it was a bad twist. So, next we'll get into my number 2 second least favorite twist of Star Trek, and that is the reveal of the burn from Su'Kal. So Discovery Season 3 could have been a good season. It introduced like the 32nd century, I think they are, and how different it is, and so it introduced new characters as Booker and Adira, who were really good and brought interesting dynamic to the show. It took it away from being right before the original series, so it wasn't constantly bumping up against canon, and made it more interesting. So it could have been a really good season, but they hang the whole season on the mystery of the burn. What is the burn? And it was this huge mystery that they were playing up, like what caused the burn, which, if you didn't watch it, the burn was basically the destruction of all dilithium crystals everywhere, which kind of eliminated warp drive, and it sort of shrunk. People couldn't really travel that much between planets anymore. So we're wondering the whole season what caused this, and we find out is just a man-child like screaming. That's what caused it. It was a Kelpian young boy who was at the specific place or something. I can't remember the details, but calls them when he got angry. Calls the burn. Really? Like, that's the best you could come up with? Like, that is such a dumb reveal. Really, they hung the whole season on this, and then we finally get to it, and I was like, that's it? Like, that's... Come on. That's dumb. Dumb. Anyway, so next we'll get to my number 1 worst plot twist in Star Trek, and that is... It was the Borg all along. From Vox, which is Picard Season 3. I was actually into Picard Season 3 for the most part. I had some issues with it until we get to this final 2 episodes, which ruined the whole season, I think. And I really think that this twist did feel like it was fan fiction written by a 14-year-old. I honestly do. That's how it really comes off to me. Because all season long we're wondering, why do the changelings want Jack Crusher? Like, they just keep trying to get him. Why is he important? And there's this whole secret. He's having these visions of a red door, and they're like really building it up, like, oh, what's going on? And it turns out... This is so ridiculous, I can't believe. Alright, it turns out that he inherited some Borg mumbo-jumbo DNA or whatever or virus, whatever. Or I think they're saying that the virus that killed Picard and all good things was actually implanted by the Borg or something like that. And Jack Crusher inherited that from his father. And so the Borg needed to use him in order to implant a virus inside of all of Starfleet that would instantly infect Starfleet and instantly assimilate anyone under the age of 30. Which is very convenient since all the main characters are, in their 60s or higher. so it's so yeah, they revealed earlier in the seasons it was the changelings. They were the enemies, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, the changeling are working with the Borg. That just seems like fan fiction written by 14-year-olds. Like someone was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if the Borg were working with the changelings and they instantly came up with this virus that instantly assimilated everyone? Not to mention the fact that made canon that the Borg were wiped out in Endgame, which was never fucking the case. Rick Berman just said in interviews, but very clearly that's not what happened in that shitty episode. But, that's kind of another story. But yeah, terrible. Worst twist in Star Trek. So now, we'll get into my top 5 best twists in Star Trek. The twists that I really love. And this list was a bit harder to narrow down to 5 episodes, but I did my best. As I said, I wouldn't be surprised if I forgot something. But anyway, we will get to my number 5 best twist in Star Trek, and that is you've been boimed from Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. Now, I particularly love this. Lower Decks is amazing. The more I watch it, the more I like it. And I know some people might disagree with this placing on this list. But it's from the episode Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, where Mariner and Boimler are escorting the super evil computer Agamas, played by Jeffrey Combs, who does such an amazing job. So great hearing Jeffrey Combs' voice, and it's just this evil computer is just so hilarious. He's so difficult evil, constantly trying to trick Boimler and Mariner into hooking him up to a computer so he can become evil and take control. And they crash land on the planet, and Boimler finds out that Mariner didn't trust him and purposely spoke to the commander saying, he can't handle this, and that pisses him off, and Agamas is trying to trick Boimler into taking him to hooking out the computer so he could get rescued, but Mariner sees it for the trap it is, but Boimler says that she just doesn't believe in him, and so he phasers her and takes Agamas and hooks him up to the computer. And he does this huge evil rant. It was like, I'm taking over and I'm taking over everything. This show looked like this thing's coming out of the computer being all evil. But it turns out, as Boimler says, you've been boimed because he didn't actually hook him up to the Starfleet computer. He just hooked him up to the light system, where the only thing he could do is turn on and off the lights. But it did allow Boimler to send a distress call. And so Boimler apparently was playing him the whole time, and even fooling Mariner. It was all part of his plan. Now, there's a couple reasons why I love this twist. First, this is when they really show Boimler being smart and clever. And I'm going back and I'm just watched season 1 of Lower Decks, and my big issue with that is that Boimler's coming off as naive and dumb, and Mariner's perfect and great. And so they do that dynamic a lot in the first couple of seasons, so it was great to finally get this twist that it was Boimler who was ahead of Mariner the whole time, and he actually saw a way to fool supercomputers, sort of him growing as a character, and that was great. But also that whole monologue that Jeffrey Combs does when he was like, I'm evil now and I will take over the galaxy. It was so perfect. It was so good. So, I had to put that at my number 5 best twist in Star Trek. So next, we will get to my number 4 best twist in Star Trek, and that is holodeck within a holodeck from Ship in a Bottle. Yeah, Ship in a Bottle, really good episode. Really great use of Moriarty. Was really happy they brought him back. And yeah, this had a very shocking twist sort of halfway through the episode where Data reveals that they never actually left the holodeck. That the whole time they were seeing Moriarty walk in the real world, it wasn't really the real world, and he was just fooling them so that he could get a hold of Picard's command codes, which he could use to take over the real ship. And meanwhile, he was tricking Barclay, Data, and Picard into thinking that they were in the ship when in fact they were in a holodeck. And Picard then uses this knowledge to trick Moriarty in the same way, where he uses the holodeck within the holodeck to trap Moriarty in that. So he thinks he's in the real world, but he's really in the holodeck. Very clever, very interesting, mind-bending twist that works extremely well. So next we'll get into my number 3 best Star Trek plot twist, and that is propaganda indoctrination from Nemesis, the Voyager episode, not the Next Generation movie. So, I love Nemesis. I know it's very polarizing. Some people really hate it. Some people really love it. I'm on the side of really loving it. Because the power of propaganda and how it's used is something that I've studied, had an interest in, and I think this episode was a very good use of it. There are similar episodes I've seen in other shows, such as The Outer Limits, the 90s Outer Limits, and Black Mirror, which came out after this. I can't remember if the Outer Limits one might have come out after this too. I don't remember how the time sets up. But anyway, but yeah, it's really... this is my favorite of the 3. I think it's the most powerful because you have Chakotay crash on a planet and you see him get trapped in this troop of people who are at war with these predator-looking beasts, and the beasts kill everyone and take over a village and kill this little girl, and they torture old people, and they're like seen as evil, and Chakotay gets to wanting to fight them, and turns out that that was all just indoctrination. That was all just a simulation. That in fact, the predator-looking dudes were the ones who were working with the Voyager to try to find Chakotay, and it was those other guys who had captured him and were brainwashing him in order to fight in their war for them, and they managed to successfully indoctrinate him, and I think that was a very shocking twist. That was such an effective twist, like when they revealed Tuvok was talking to Chakotay, but since he was brainwashed, he saw one of those predator-looking guys, but it was actually Tuvok. It was very powerful commentary on the power of propaganda, which I think is something not to be underestimated, and how things aren't always as they seem, and that in most wars the enemy is portrayed as evil in order to make people feel better about killing them. So it does, and usually the reality is a bit more complicated than that. So it was very powerful. So next we'll get into my number 2 favorite twist in all of Star Trek, and that is O'Brien was a replicant all this time from Whispers. Now, it wasn't O'Brien, so this whole episode we're following O'Brien from his perspective and how everyone in the crew started acting weird. It started small and started getting worse and worse and worse, and I've seen so much Star Trek that I think, he's in a parallel universe, or the crew has been taken over by aliens. I've seen that episode so many times that it never even occurred to me that this wouldn't actually be the real O'Brien, and the problem was with him. This is, I think it was a great way to play with the Star Trek tropes. And also the fact that we were following this character we saw as the hero, and then revealed at the end he was actually the villain. and the real O'Brien was captured, although he thought he was the hero as well, which is what made it even more convincing and sold it more. And the ending where Replicant O'Brien dies and says, "Tell Keiko I love her," to the real O'Brien was so dark. It was so powerful, and I've said before, I think that ending kind of encapsulates the whole feeling of Deep Space Nine and what Deep Space Nine is about. Absolutely amazing twist. And my number one favorite Star Trek twist is it was actually Maritza this whole time from Duet. So yes, Duet, as I've said before, my favorite episode of the entire Star Trek franchise, and I think it does have one of the best twists. So, Kira meets this Cardassian with Kalanora syndrome, so thinks that he was at a labor camp. He says he's just a file clerk, but then she finds out that he was the camp leader, guilty of atrocities, and he admits to that, but then Kira finds out that he is in fact just a file clerk. And the reveal of that was very powerful. Again, this whole episode is filled with amazing acting, amazing moments, but the revelation that he was feeling guilty, that he used to cover his ears to stop from hearing the screams and hear him break down and cry and say that he was a coward because he heard all those screams and did nothing. Was a very powerful reveal, especially since Goldar Heel, or Maritza, has pretending to be Goldar Heel, said some really horrible shit. He said, "What you call genocide, I call day's work." And so he was purposely doing that to antagonize Major Kira, because he wanted to be executed to atone for his crimes of doing nothing and to make Cardassia better. And that recontextualized the whole episode. It was very powerful. And you could also throw in the twist when he was killed by a random drunk person. That was another twist on top of that. But yeah, the twist of him revealing is that he was Maritza the whole time and he felt guilty was amazing. So that is my number one favorite Star Trek twist. So that is it for my top 5 best and worst Star Trek plot twists. If you enjoyed this video, you can support the channel, checking out my channel, leaving a comment, leaving a like, subscribing, all that sort of thing help me out. And if you really want to support the channel, you could consider supporting me on Patreon. There's a link below. We have different rewards, such as requesting videos like this one. So yeah, so thanks so much for checking out this video, and be sure to check out my channel as I continue to cover Star Trek, at the moment covering Season 3 of Deep Space Nine and Season 1 of Voyager, one episode at a time. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.